Hello, hello. It's Sunday, and you are listening to an all-new episode of Center of the Sun. I got my coffee this morning. We got another hour of sleep. Well, I didn't because I don't sleep. But we toggled off daylight savings time, and it's season 2 of your favorite culture, society, and science podcast. Thank you for listening. Isn't it cool? I think it's cool. Daylight savings time. Not the fact that we created it or the fact that we care or whatever. It doesn't really, it's for farmers or something. I don't know. The government created daylight savings time at some point to help the economy. I don't know why they changed time. But anyway, daylight savings time is cool to me because it makes me realize that the world, our relationship to the sun changes just slightly enough that the seasons change. And that the axis of the earth, oh my God, Mother Earth. Ooh, Mother Earth. Hey girl. Hey Mother Earth. Have you thanked Mother Earth today for not shifting her crust on us yet? Well, certain parts of the world. But it's daylight savings time, or the lack thereof, and you are listening to Center of the Sun. We're going to talk about the ego today, and this is a very hard topic for me because I don't know what the fuck I'm going to talk about. Well, I do know what I'm going to talk about because we're going to talk about string theory today. We're going to talk about the election. We're going to talk about Julia Roberts and this new show. Or is that who it is, Julia Roberts? I believe so. But I've been racking my brain trying to figure out because okay, so these shows are pretty much me talking into a microphone. And I do plan certain things, but most of the times I like to let my higher self lead. And mainly all week I try to frame my mind around what this episode's going to be. So I try to think of things and think of situations and stories that I can share with you. And what popped in my mind this week is the ego. Because I'm trying to figure out, in terms of my own spirituality, what the fuck is going on with the world. And that's just me personally, but what I'm seeing in the world of these spirituality, these new age people, because it all started with Oprah. You know, Oprah's always been demonized for her spirituality and her views because she shares them on TV, and they can be perceived as anti-Judeo-Christian. And as somebody who grew up very religious in that particular religion, I find that it's important to revisit those ideas because now I don't practice necessarily 100% Judeo-Christianity, but I do believe in Oprah's view of it because she always viewed it as Christ conscious. She viewed it as ideas. Christianity is a set of ideas. And whether or not Jesus was a physical person is neither here nor there because it's the idea, because whether or not he lived or whatever, it's thousands of years in the future, so it doesn't matter at this point. We are still supposed to be following certain ideas about how to treat each other, how to interact with the world, our position in the world, our position in the universe. And then that's all good and well. And what you believe is what you believe, but my quest has always been to seek God that is inside of me already. Because I do believe in the Judeo-Christian idea that God probably made us in his image, I don't believe in white God, so I don't believe that God is a he anyway, but whatever. I don't think God is a gender, but are we made in God's image? Yes. Do we have certain ideas that we have to follow? Yes. Did Christ exist as a human being? Most likely, yes. Do I believe in all that? Me and Jesus are going to have a conversation. That's another conversation for another day. But in terms of this show, in understanding my perspective, I always come from like a Judeo-Christian perspective. But do I believe it 100%? That's why I'm a researcher. That's why I invited you to listen to the show, because I find the excitement in the journey. I don't care. I just want to know what the truth is. So, in my pursuit of higher self, and in my pursuit of God and spirituality and understanding who I am in relation to other people in the world, in relation to the universe, I set off on a journey on YouTube, and I keep seeing this archetype of people. And if you've ever met me in person, I'm a Midwesterner, very normal. My proximity to whiteness is pretty close because I grew up in just a more conservative rural part of the Midwest, and this is how I am. So when I look at drugs and exercising and, I don't know, there's various things that like people do, crystals and magic and all this new age stuff that it strikes me as odd because where I'm from, that is considered bad. So when I pursue other ideas outside of Judeo-Christianity, or seemingly outside, because actually what I'm learning is that actually everybody is probably right. That's my conclusion. It's like literally that's my conclusion. Like the more I learn about religion and stuff, the more I realize, oh my God, like literally everybody is saying the same exact thing, except for you're coming from it from a different perspective. So I'm like, okay, this is stupid. If we all just stopped and listened to each other, we would literally know, like we could see the patterns, but thank God for my brain. I see the big picture when other people see their own bullshit. But that's my gift, and I'm happy to be able to think in a global sense. And not global as in the world, but global as in like a bird's eye view, but like a global view. Like that's what I'm that's the kind of perspective that I'm coming from. And I've always thought like that. But it made me really uncomfortable because I'm like, I don't have hair, so I can't wear dreads. I bathe regularly. I don't like facial hair, so I would like to keep my beard relatively short. Like I don't want to look dirty. Not dreadlocks, but like it, like literally, like I like clean clothes. I like wearing deodorant. I don't want to wear my hair long, but I want to explore ideas outside of the mainstream in terms of spirituality. And I feel like the people on YouTube, the people who cling to these alternative ideas are like a specific kind of people. I'm like, I don't want to be that personality, but I want to know what you know. So on YouTube, and hopefully I'm making sense right now, or 8 minutes in, I'm like, what the fuck? I haven't even talked about my main topic yet. But on YouTube, it made me really worried because I'm like, okay, maybe these ideas are not for me. Maybe stepping away from Jesus died on the cross, and all of that. I don't even know. Whatever we're taught as children, all of those things, we're not really allowed to think outside of it. And I'm like, I want to step outside of those ideas, and not that I don't believe them. I just want to like explore everything. I need more information when a lot of people prefer less. I need everything. Like you can't keep me in the dark for anything. Like I'm the kind of person, I want to know what the actual truth is, whether I like it or not. So I had to separate myself from the personalities of the people that I want to learn from because they strike me as odd. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, brush your teeth. Like, flossing is, I know it's not researched like it's supposed to be, but there's still validity in the things that we know as true. Like, manners. Get up and brush your teeth and wash your face. You don't leave. We weren't allowed to leave our room without doing that first. Well, in certain cases. So it's brought me to this episode of Center of the Sun because I wanted to talk about ego and the ways in which we talk to ourselves. And I want to make a case for that because Oprah's really the only person that's like explained it in like in a normal way. And now I'm glad that she did it. Because Eckhart Tolle and these people are weird. They're just odd. And they're not odd because they're like less than. It's just, they think about different stuff and then it looks weird to us because we don't ever think about that shit. We don't think about our I am presence. We don't think about our higher selves. And we don't think about how we should live in the now and stop thinking about what we did in the past and what we're going to do in the future. And, like we don't know that if we just let our egos go, a lot of things would be easier for us. But then I'm like, okay, as a black gay man, excuse me, as a black gay man, anytime somebody tells me, and this is my higher self, I'm just going to say, I don't care if this is my higher self or not. Anytime anyone tells me to minimize a part of myself, I take it as a direct insult to my humanity and my right to exist. Thank you, son of Baldwin, for that articulation. Because what you're not going to do is tell me to minimize any part of myself because it's negative. So that's why it took me 10 years to understand what Oprah was saying, because I was like, how are you going to tell me that I need to decrease my ego and increase my higher self? Because that higher self is where God is. But I'm like, but if we were made it, so this is how I think, okay? So 10 years ago, I probably heard on some TV show that we need to let go of our ego. We need to think less of that part of ourself that protects us. It truly is our survival mechanism, that fight or flight response, that fear response. That's our ego, that part of ourselves that says, no, that's not safe. No, you don't have enough money to do that. No, they don't like you. You aren't skinny enough or light enough or whatever the thing, like you're not. That self-talk that can be detrimental to us, but also has a very valuable role, integral role in our lives. So there's never so whenever somebody tells me, you need to let go of your ego, I'm like, but that's my survival mechanism. And I'm a black gay man, so I have to have them because somebody's always trying to kill me. I experience catastrophic expectancy quite often. What is catastrophic expectancy, you say? Well, it's the part of yourself. My internet's down, damn it. Damn it, Spectrum. Come on. Sorry. So I wanted to look up catastrophic expectancy because I run into it at work a lot. Catastrophic expectations. Where, oh my gosh, I want to use my Ethernet, but it keeps falling out. Oh, so I want to make a review. So I have a XS Max, iPhone XS Max. So before I move along, I want to talk about my iPhone XS Max. It is the best thing since sliced bread. Hands down. Like, never have I ever. The iPhone XS Max is everything that I've ever wanted it to be. An iPhone to be. I'm like, bitch, what? Like, Face ID, amazing. iOS 12, amazing. Screen size, amazing. Weight, amazing. Battery life, amazing. Everything about it it just works. The only thing I don't like is the Face ID. I have to lift it to my face. Like one day I want them to I don't even want to have to lift the phone to my face. Like just unlock, bitch. And when I'm not there, you better not unlock for shit. Like that's the kind of technology I'm trying to interact with. Love it. Pair the iPhone XS Max with macOS Mojave, bitch. Oh, hell. This is a match made in I swear to God. I swear to God. I swear to God. Excuse me. I swear to God. iPhone XS Max and macOS Mojave is a leap. And it's a subtle leap because it is like, it just works. That's the thing about it. You just turn it on and bam, it's just, here's your new computer. Have a great life. Like, well, it's like the future just like jumps and we're just experiencing it anyway. Long story short, I love it. I love my phone. I love my computer. I love dark mode. I love all the little like niceties that they give you. It's so stupid. Whatever. But what is catastrophic expectation? Occurs when one assumes that if something bad can happen, then it will. So when you're a black gay man and you see people being murdered because of just who they are, just being them motherfucking self, you think that it will happen to you. Because the likelihood that it will is very, excuse me, is very high. And I'm drinking coffee because I'm trying to wake up because we lost an hour or gained an hour or whatever. But my sleep cycle's off a little bit. But catastrophic expectations, they help us. It's our fear response. So why would Oprah tell me to decrease my fear response? Well, she didn't mean it in that way. That's what it got me to think about. Because it's like, no, it's about balancing your conscious and your unconscious thoughts. So the ego is the part of the mind that mediates conscious and unconscious. Your consciousness, because our consciousness, whether conscious or unconscious, in the forefront of our mind or in the subconscious of our mind, it's responsible for reality testing and giving us a sense of identity. So how do you balance your sense of identity with the sense of reality? That's our ego. It tells us what's real. So we need it. But we can't let it overpower the fact that we are not 100% physical beings. And we know that from our Judeo-Christian upbringing, that there is always a part of us that's still connected to God, and all we have to do is ask. That's the thing. And that's why I can't get rid of my upbringing, because it doesn't matter what idea I tap into, whoever's idea, it doesn't matter, whoever's idea, even Luciferianism, Satanism, you open up yourself to whatever God you want to be connected to. And that's that Christ consciousness. And that's what we're trying to combat with the Illuminati and all that shit. Like, now I believe in the Illuminati and all that shit, because there are forces like working against our world, like specifically, and it's probably the devil. And maybe the devil, just like Christ, maybe it's not a physical thing, but it's just a set of ideas in a collective destruction of Christ consciousness. And the hope and the connection that we have to each other, like, that's the thing. Like, that's what Christ does. Christ connects us to each other. So Christ consciousness also does that. So the Illuminati is trying to destroy that. So every time the division, we're divided as people. And I don't want to be like idealistic, but like even across lines of race, like I believe like racial division is made to take us away from Christ, alienate us from Christ and Christ consciousness. And whether or not you think, it's crazy because it's like, it doesn't matter what part of the Bible you believe. You better believe at least one part of it. Well, you better. because I actually don't care. Whatever ideas you choose them, but don't come over here and deny my humanity and my right to exist and my right to believe in what I believe in. Because y'all, and unfortunately, even Beyonce's convincing me. I'm like, girl, I really want to rock with you, but my core of my being is like, the images you are showing are so subtle, but so like kind of anti-Christ. And you talk about being Christian, and but your actions and your words, like, that's the thing, is like, actions, words must match. Like, you can't say one thing and then turn your body around in an anti, and just the symbolism, like even the symbols, like I don't know. It's scary. But anyway, it doesn't matter, because that's what the ego does. The ego, that's what we're talking about today. Thank you for listening. This is the Center of the Sun, season 2. I'm going off on like a tangent now. But the ego is your sense of self-esteem. It's your sense of importance in the world. It is the reality. It gives you your sense of reality, and it gives you a sense of personal identity. You cannot decrease that. There's no way to decrease that sense in yourself, but you can increase other parts of your consciousness as well. And I think like eating certain foods, like that does impact our ability to connect with our higher self. And also I do think that this issue with the pineal gland, like why, so for instance, like why do we have fluoride in our water? Because there's certain things that like, okay, like, yeah, there is no reason why we should like have like fluoride in our water. Like they told us it's for our teeth, but it's not. And then we're like, okay, now we have the science, and now then we have the knowledge to know that they're just putting fluoride in our water to do what? And it's to stop us from and I think to a certain degree, it's to stop us from thinking about our higher selves. Like I do believe that that's part of it, but it's probably to protect us. Because if we can't see the good spiritual part of life, we also can't see the bad spiritual part. So it's like, is it protection, or is it manipulation for some malice? Is it malicious intent? And my higher self is that part of me that kind of guides me, the God part of you. That guides you, it's saying that it's protection. And I feel like things are going to be okay. So I feel okay talking about the ego. I feel okay talking about spirituality, because I think that the good will prevail in our lives. So when you talk about yourself, so when we're talking about ourselves and we're talking to ourselves, oftentimes, I know me, I don't know about you, but I know I kind of have conversations, and it's like a back and forth. It's like back and forth, and I allow myself to just like let it echo in there and let whatever synthesize. But at the end of the day, we have to recognize, like, okay, is this my ego, or is this my higher self? Is this my survival mechanism telling me, giving me boundaries, or am I just scared? And we have to learn the difference. And I wish I could tell you what the difference is, and I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that your higher self, or God speaking to you or through you, is very clear and very direct. So my current thing is, I've had this feeling, within the next 5 years, you will be living somewhere completely different. But every year that goes by, it's gone down from, in the next 5 years you're going to do this, and then it's in the next 2 years you're going to do this. And now that goal is within the year, you're going to quit your job and you're going to start from scratch. and I'm terrified. I'm like, I can't quit my job. I've been working for like 6 years. Like, how can I quit my job? We're working at the same place for 6 years. I've been building up, working for the man. Building a nice set of skills, which is what I wanted. But now I'm like, all this energy that I'm putting into this job, I could be putting into my own, whatever it is. I have so much energy that I expend for other people. I could still expend the energy for other people, but it could benefit me more as well, which therefore would benefit other people more. Excuse me. So, what part of me is the ego and what part of me is the higher self? Well, the part of me that's the ego is saying, you need this amount of money to let go of the job. Before you let go of the job, you need to fix these relationships. Be careful because you don't want to burn bridges because these people are petty. So it's like my protection, the protection part of myself is yelling at me like, do it this way. So now my ego is now recognizing that I'm so serious. So now it's like mediating this transition. It's like, okay, don't make any rash decisions because I really want to make a rash decision really bad. Don't make a rash decision. You have to do it in this way. You have to have this kind of amount of money. You have to have this plan. I like all of these things, but it's me saying it's me talking to myself. You need to do this. You need to do that. But my higher self was like, but within 1 year, bitch. And it's cussing at me too. I'm cussing at myself like, bitch, think I'm playing. You will start from scratch. And whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. And you better be prepared. So I'm like, okay. So that's what I'm doing. So how do you combat that? How do you manage this part of yourself that's terrified and this part of yourself that's so sure? And the only way to manage it is to live in the present. This is what Oprah was saying 10 years ago. I didn't understand it. The only way to manage those two things is to live in the present because that's literally what exists. That's literally what's real right now is what's happening to you right now. So go about your business and live in the now. So how do you live in the now? Well, you can meditate. Unfortunately, that's the best way. You can exercise. You can, whatever brings you to right now, do that. In terms of my work, I'm trying not to think about my past. I'm not trying to think about a future job. Actually, I don't have one. That's my thing. So I'm forced to work in the now. I'm forced to focus on what I can focus on right now because I know that there's nothing else coming. And whatever else is coming is so vague that I can't plan for it. And to a certain extent, that's how it's supposed to be. What do you think? Did I make any sense? Email me, host@centersun21.com with your thoughts, or you can tweet me at centersun21 on Twitter. How do you balance your ego? Are you aware of the parts of yourself that may be there for your survival only and not for your guidance? Have you been able to sort it out? Can you sort it? I can't. But I think, but I still believe, clearly was eating breakfast right before this, but what do you think? I'm kind of just like a stream of consciousness, just like talking at this computer right now. But I feel like it's important because with so much going on in the world, and we'll get into that just a moment, because we got to talk about the midterm elections. With so much going on in the world, we're barreling towards this date, this monumental date. But the best thing we could do in order to combat those feelings or that fear inside of us, the best thing we can do is just live right here in the now. Like literally. And I feel like when we do that, everything will fall into place. And that the powers that be, good or bad, will resolve. It'll resolve. Whatever's bad will resolve, because I think there's enough of us that are good. And not good in the duality, not good in the sense of duality, like, oh, you're going to hell, you're going to heaven. No, good like for the good of all, like for the edification of our species. Like literally, I feel like whatever will happen is probably going to be for the good of our species. So, have you registered to vote? If not, it's too late. Have you voted early? Hopefully you did. If not, it's too late. I will be voting on election day. That's my little tradition. I vote in every election, so you probably don't. If you're listening to this, you probably don't vote every election, because most people don't. Only old people do, because they don't have anything else better to do. In my dumbass. So, stop calling yourself dumbass. And it's also me. But actually, I'm going to get off of the news because NPR is already so fucking stupid. So NPR, okay. So on October 31st, NPR reported, their headline says, another civil war, pessimism about political violence deepens in a divided nation. See, these are the kind of things that I think that is, the division is being promoted. And I never fuck with NPR. So basically, the deadly synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the killing of 2 African Americans in Kentucky, and the wave of improvised explosive devices aimed at critics of President Trump all happened within the past week, quoted from NPR. They also go on to say that they all coincide with deep national pessimism about the outlook for peaceful protests in the United States. Yeah, they're making us scared to protest. You know what? I'm not worried about it. We're going to protest. If you want to kill us, you can kill us. Racist people, what you do in the dark will come to the light. So you can do what you want, honestly. Because you can't kill all of us. So, I mean, there was somebody that was just hung in Missouri. I'm like, you can't kill all of us. You can try to pick us off one by one. Try to lock us up. 1 and 3. 1 and 3 is not enough. You can't kill us all. You can't lock us all up. We're not going to lay down. Sorry. And the more evil you do, the more you attack us and you try to suppress our voices, the more we will ascend. And not only ascend like in the physical realm, but in the spiritual realm too, because the power of Christ compels you. I'm sorry, the Christ consciousness compels you to step the fuck back. So in an effort to combat all of this weird energy that is coming from the world, I encourage you to express yourself. And that's really the point of this whole episode, is why is the ego important? The ego is your sense of self, is your personality. So I would say use it. Use it as an expression. If you're fearful, be scared. But put that fear into something creative. Like literally, it's so crazy. Use your brain to your advantage. If you're creative, use the creative part of you. If you're an organizer, use the organizing part of you. Lean into your strengths. If your strength is doing people dirty, then continue doing that and you will see what happens as a result. But it doesn't matter because we all, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And on Tuesday, I feel like will give us a better idea of what's going on in terms of how the world is shaking out. So, have you seen these new MacBook Airs, though? Let me switch gears. Have you seen the new MacBook Airs? I want one so bad. But I already have a big-ass computer already, so I don't need it. But Popular Science, one of my favorite magazines, they reported that Tim Cook is extolling the virtues of the MacBook Air, calling it the most beloved notebook ever. So, I feel like it's gonna be. It's so weird to see like only 2 ports on a computer. But if I were to get one of the things that were announced, I would probably get an iPad Pro. Because I already have a full computer, so I would probably get a tablet. Now, the iPad Pros are looking real sexy with the Face ID and all that shit. Like, Face ID is my fave. And I don't even care about the Illuminati or whoever trying to take our faces. And, like, I don't even care. I love it. But, what do you think? That does it for today's episode of Center of the Sun. Thank you for listening. Please email me your questions, host@centersun21.com, or you can tweet me at centersun21 on Twitter. How do you separate your ego? Do you know the difference between your ego and your higher self and the other parts of your consciousness? Do you believe that there are other parts of your consciousness? Do you even believe me? I like having conversations. I like researching, and I like talking about the power that's inside of us. So if you ever see me on Twitter talking about, oh my gosh, you're so powerful inside of you, that's what I'm talking about, your consciousness. Even though people talk about our ego as a deficit or as a part of ourself that needs to be minimized, it shouldn't. It's just as valid as any other part. It's just like, it's the same thing as what we say. There is no one in this world that is unworthy. Just like our bodies, like there's no part of our body in our mind that is unworthy or needs to be decreased. You just have to recognize it as, you just have to acknowledge that it's as important as any other part of your body, and then you will start moving your thoughts around to support the fact that, like, no, bitch, like, even though my ego might overpower me, it's overpowering me for a reason, and I need to understand that reason. That's what I encourage you to look for. That's what I encourage you to think about moving forward in this week. Last week, we talked about perception. We talked about how Albert Einstein was right when he was, kind of theorizing that no, not only can nothing go faster than light, here's the actual way that I'm going to prove it. And his ego probably did tell him to stop. Like, no, bitch, everyone else is right. They can prove it. They got pictures and diagrams and things, and you got ideas in an equation. But his higher self, Albert Einstein's higher self, was like, no, but I'm right. And it wasn't about being right. It was about the process of finding what the real truth was, because in actuality, he was right and so were they, but they just needed to connect the ideas together. And that's what they did. It took us till 2015 to do it, or whatever year it was. But it was done. So it proves to me that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's not about decreasing one part of yourself, it's about acknowledging that all parts are equal, of equal importance. For instance, like I was telling my friend, he was talking about like, oh, I have like, some people where I live, drinking is acceptable, socially acceptable, drinking a lot. And I'm like, we got to take care of our livers. Like we are destroying one part of our body because we think that like the rest is like, it's just one part. And I'm like, no, drinking alcohol is fine. Actually, it's not fine at all, but it's socially acceptable enough. Excuse me. Drinking is socially acceptable enough, but we need to acknowledge that our liver literally makes the thickness of our blood. And that without the thickness of our blood being the way that it is, we would die. So therefore, if we destroy our liver, even for a momentary, even in a momentary lapse of judgment where we're drinking too much, like we're compromising our body's ability to make platelets. It's like stuff like that where it's like, whoa, like even a little bit of damage is enough. So even a little bit of damage to our thinking or to our spirit is enough. So yeah, you're perfect. Anyway, thank you for listening. Even the parts of yourself that you think are shitty, they're still fine. So just connect to your foundation. What your mama told you was probably true. So have a great day. Thank you for listening. This is season 2 of Center of the Sun, your favorite culture, society, and science podcast. Thank you for listening.